Hey everyone, hope you've had a great day so far and that you're doing well. For this video we'll be continuing through our unbagging series of Combat Patrol with Combat Patrol issue number 8, and Combat Patrol is for the Warhammer 40,000 game setting. And Combat Patrol here in Australia has just come out in 2026, so I know we're a little bit behind the likes of the UK and the US, but can't do much about that, can I? Previous to issue 8, issue number 7 was a part 1 of the Termagants and Ripper Swarm squad. So issue number 8 will basically complete the squad. So front of the issue for issue 8 with a nice image of a Carnifex. Boy, I remember that back in the day. In fact, I think that was when the Carnifex was actually released in its plastic model kit, I think, which was a while ago. And then down here we just have just a nice reference to the Termagant and Ripper Swarm squad, part 2 of 2, so there'll be no doubt more Tyranid stuff inside. So from a paint side of things, we'll go through how to paint those Termagants and Ripper Swarms. There will be some reading content regarding the Departamento Munitorum, the Second Tyrannic War, and the Great Devourer. Some collect information for the Termagants, which will probably be the datasheet, and then some play components regarding charging and combat, and the scenario ambush predators. So, how to paint? So, pretty much starting with a base coating of Wraith Bone, since we've had that paint come through in an early issue. So that's pretty much across the entire model, and then using the Baraknar Burgundy to pick out the carapace areas, and that's pretty much it. So pretty much 2 colors at this point in time, given we've only had 3 paints made available within the first dozen or so issues. I believe we actually do get some more paint in the next issue. So there's that, and then just the work in progress of the Termagants with those 2 paints. They do look pretty cool, but definitely do need some more detailing. The story for Departamento Munitorum looks very Imperium-centric, which is fine. Boy, I feel like I've seen those containers before. So just some more information here, some Munitorum armoured containers. They were part of Imperium. The Second Tyrannic War. Looks like this time we're featuring High Fleet Kraken. I will admit I was not a big fan of the Kraken in terms of colours, but it is what it is. The Battle of Iandan, and then Ikar 4, and good old Marnius Calgar himself in one of his many iterations. And then we have the story information regarding the Great Devourer, and some battle barges and Thunderhawk gunships. How cool is that? And then the stages of the death of a world, the invasion, the overwhelm, and then consuming the biological resources. I suspect they actually might consume a lot more than just the biological matter, but yeah. Collect side of things, so the Termagants. So we have a little D6 generator, just to give them a little bit of a thematic theme, really. And then just a little progression of where you're at with the build, paint, and play. Datasheet for the Termagants. Not too bad. That was the datasheet side. In terms of the play, we're going into charging and combat, so the breakdown of how that works. I won't spend too much time on this because I do believe some of this is changing in the 11th edition, which at the beginning of May is still probably about 6 to 8 weeks away. Although no doubt we will get more of the rules come out in the next few weeks as previews. Fighting, piling in, and consolidation. So it all makes general sense, but I'm not going to cover the actual mechanics just in case there has been a lot of change between editions. Scenario, ambush predators. So what do we have here? So we'll have the Termagants, the Von Ryan's Leapers from a few issues ago, some Tyranid terrain, and a squad of the Infernus Marines. Interesting. They feel outnumbered. Turn 1 is pretty much with the Tyranids before the Space Marines do something. Looks like they managed to do a good amount of damage to the Termagant squad, which, to be honest, isn't surprising based on what weapons they have. Moving into the turn 2 side of things, so the Von Ryan's Leapers are coming into play. It definitely doesn't look too good there for the Marines based on that little diagram there. I think 3 of the Infernus Marines were unfortunately killed off. So between 3 Leapers and probably another Termagant, although should the Termagant make a morale check? Yes, I can't imagine the Marines winning that. Anyway, usual splash page for Combat Patrol that we're getting accustomed to seeing. And then the very last page, well, back of the issue really. So issue number 9 will have 2 paints included, Retributor Armor and Abaddon Black. So that'll be a nice addition to the collection. I feel they're more marine orientated than Tyranids, but that's me. And then issue number 10 will have a Librarian and Terminator Armor. I still think that's actually a pretty cool model. I know it's snap fit, but I think it's still a cool model. And there will be a base brush included. So that was the page through of issue number 10, which is relatively intact. Relatively. In terms of the remaining sprue for the Termagants, so there was only the 1 sprue. I know issue 7 had 2 sprues included, but we just have this one here. So that's one view. There's the back. No doubt you'll be able to complete the available Termagants available between the 2 issues. Now I won't get too carried away with it because there were a few. So issue 8 pretty much had the 1 included base for the Ripper Swarm. It is a push fit base, so there will be holes there to push things in. And then there's these push fit bases for the Termagants. There are 10 in total. I'm just not going to grab all of them. Or I could just pick them up and make a giant mess with them. But yes, the bases are included with issue 8. So if you picked up issue 7 and felt you were missing stuff, you would be right. So, how about we'll make a collective mess of everything. So that pretty much brings us to the end of the page through of issue number 8 of Combat Patrol. Nice to be able to complete this full squad of Termagants and the Ripper Swarm. Everything is now available between issue 7 and 8, so that'll be really cool to do in the future. Thank you very much for watching this video. Feel free to leave a like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the content. This does help support the channel and I do appreciate it. Extra content is also on my Instagram in the community tab, although I will admit it's mainly work in progress of stuff that I'm actively working on, so it may or may not be always 40k centric. With that being said, stay safe and take care, and I'll catch you in potentially next week's video for issue number 9 of Combat Patrol. This week's issue of Imperium, which I think is 42 or 43. I think it's 43. Don't quote me. Or something else on the channel, which potentially is not going to be 40k themed. Anyway, until the next time, see ya.